Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am super excited to have you here today, and oh my gosh, by the time this releases, we're going to be in quarter 4 of 2025. So this is definitely a time for you guys to be thinking about how you want your year to end, what you're thinking about for next year, which is why I have like the perfect guest. So Tommy, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
What's up, Kat? Thanks for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Yes, I'm so excited. And I mean, like, we were just talking offline about my son's Raider competitions and all this stuff. And like, you've got some crazy stuff that you've been doing in the background on top of all the stuff that you do with men and helping people kind of reignite where they want to be in their lives. So do us all a favor, tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so Tommy Geary, I'm a men's executive coach. So I coach men mostly one-on-one. I'm also a wilderness guide. So I'll take men into the backcountry, group trips, one-on-one backpack trips, incorporate coaching with that outdoor adventure. I'm a dad, 2 adopted girls. I'm a husband with an awesome wife, and you were just talking about your son and ROTC and the obstacle courses he does. I'm a big Spartan racer, so I do a couple Spartan races every year, which are obstacle course races. That's kind of like my fix from being an ex-athlete. I played college football, so I think what I try to do is keep everything balanced, right? Business, be an entrepreneur, father, be a dad, husband in my marriage and my personal life, right? Like I got a good crew of friends that I hang out with and kind of train with, and that I think I knocked all areas of life and just try to kind of keep that all balanced. There's all other kinds of stuff that gets piled on. But you were just saying about Q4. I just emailed all the guys that I work with like a quick questionnaire to kind of refocus for the end of the year. Take a quick
Oh,
look back, what's
nice.
been working over the last couple months. And then I also sent them, they do a form at the beginning of the year, like what do they want this year to be? So like a little reminder, this is what you said. Let's refocus, prioritize. What are we going to get done in these next 3 months? I think the day to day can get away with us and we just check stuff off the list. So stopping and thinking about like what are the real priorities is always helpful.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so funny too, because I think of, when I used to be in a regular job and how it's just like you worked, you came home, you cooked, you ate, did what the kids need to do, and like that was it. And what I really found interesting, and I saw this online not too long ago, where someone was kind of talking about like when you're kind of in that like hamster wheel of doing the same thing over and over again, it almost feels like the year just like flies by, right? Like
Mhm.
one minute it's January, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's July. Happy 4th. What are we doing now? And so it was really interesting to think about like taking the intentional breaks and paying attention to where I was at the beginning of the year and kind of checking back in with myself. I think that this is a beautiful statement for you, sending this to your guys for Q4 is just being very intentional of being aware of like where were you at? Did you set things? Have those changed? Are you accomplishing them? Is there something that needs to shift? I think that that almost helps kind of slow down the day-to-day crazy or the day-to-day habitual things that we're doing where we don't even really think about it. And then before we know it, we're like, oh, it's 6 months down the road. I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah, yeah, we're amazing human being machines that can like operate really quickly, and we get our routines like you're saying and our habits, and then we just like roll, and we roll really, really quickly. But if we're not pausing to make sure we're rolling in the right direction or putting our energy in the things that actually lead to the life that we want, yeah, the time can go flying by and you're like, shit, I really wanted to do that this year and I didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up as too because you were talking about this in the very beginning about how like you coach with men, but you also incorporate these walks, the being in nature and stuff like that. How important do you feel that it is for just a human being in general to be a part of nature, to do some of these things that you are? I love that you're shifting the game of coaching, but like in a totally different atmosphere. So give me your thoughts on why you feel like this is working.
We are nature, right? We're not the lie is that we're somehow separate from it. And I won't get too philosophical with that, or maybe not even philosophical, too scientific, but we're separated from nature. And what I've found is like being able to step away from the screens, being able to get out of the boxes that we live in and find slices of nature, green, maybe some rivers, maybe some ponds, maybe some high peaks, turning your phones off, right? Especially if you find a place where the phones don't even work, it makes it easier. There's just like this natural pace. You mentioned slowing down. There's this natural pace of nature that allows us to slow down a little bit, think a little bit differently, and then we're already like reprogramming, and then it gives a more space to do some of the coaching that I do. Um, yeah, I guess for example, I'll take guys, I'll do these durable dad days. So the durable dad is the name of my podcast, and I'll do a durable dad day. I've done them in Chicago. I live in Ohio. I've done them here. I've done them in Colorado. And the first thing that we do, I'm giving it away, the surprise, but the first thing that we do is we go and sit down, and I put a timer on for a certain amount of minutes, and everyone just goes, and the rule is the only thing you can do is write. If you want to write, you can write. Everything else you can't do. You can focus on your breathing if you want, but you just got to sit and be. And you can open up your senses, look at the sights around you. You can open up your ears, hear what's happening, and that's it. And the first time I did this, we like brought the group back, and I was like, all right, so what was that like for you guys? And one guy was like, I could go home right now. Like this was worth the investment of being here. That was
Wow.
perfect. Yeah. And so there's something there. I don't know like how to articulate it perfectly, but if you go and you spend time in nature, like that feels good.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna totally like second that like 1000%. That's like my go-to
Yeah.
when it comes to like needing to slow down or knowing that things have been crazy. We were talking about off camera right before we hopped on. Like this is Raider season for my kids. So it's like every weekend or every other weekend there's something going on and we got to be here. And my sister's about to have another kid. And so it feels like things are very chaotic and spinning very fast, even though we're accomplishing things. And so, like over the weekend, I told my husband, I was like, that's it. I need a break. I was like, I'm going outside for like the next 3 hours. And he was like, okay. And I was like, no, I literally, like, I'm gonna go lay in the hammock and I'm just gonna close my eyes and I'm just gonna be like, that is my space. And it really is interesting when you talked about getting away from the phones, getting away from the electronics. It is really interesting to me that now I have the ability to be able to see when I've been on my phone too much because I can feel the anxiety. I can feel like the chaos. I can feel the I can't slow down or I feel like I need to be doing more things. And I will literally just flip my phone over and I will go and sit out on the rocks on the back of my place. Or, like my husband works in IT. That's a hell of a place to be to begin with. And so almost every single weekend, if not every single weekend, if it's not raining, like we go get coffee on Saturday morning and we go for a walk somewhere. There is no phones unless we're taking pictures because we love to take pictures. I'm a huge nature fanatic of finding the quiet spaces or the empty, walkways that nobody's been down. And it really is interesting how it allows the body just like to reset because our phones and the electronics and our computers are like go 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 go. What is this?
Yeah.
What is this you can look at? If you scroll through your phone, you're seeing like 30 videos in 2 minutes and your brain is just like I can't intake the information. There's something about nature that because I feel like it comes from all of the senses, you have the ability to like take it in fully. If you choose to be present with it. Let me put it that way. You have to choose to be present with it. And I wasn't really good at that before, and I loved outside, but I'm very good about it now, right? If I am going through a walkway area and I find a stream, I will make it a point to take my shoes off and walk in the water and just feel the rocks or the cold from the water, like anything that I can to bring my body back to center, to pay attention to our senses, which I think that we kind of disconnect from when we are so focused on all the things out in front of us.
Yeah. I mean, for you to have that awareness is a pretty amazing tool because if you're looking at your phone and like you said, you realize you start to feel like anxious and worked up because you've been looking at your screen so much, that's being able to pull yourself away from that is a skill not many people have. We hear about the phones all the time. We hear about screen time, how we manage our kids with screen time, how we manage ourselves with screen time, and it's crazy because we'll be looking at our phone and we'll be telling ourselves I shouldn't be doing this, but we keep doing it, and
Hmm.
that loop of whatever that is creates more anxiety, creates more stress. The video you're watching is exciting, so that gets worked up. The video you're watching is scary, so then you're having this other emotion. And sometimes doing that's okay, like it's fine. But if you're constantly in that cycle, that's not very healthy for the human nervous system to constantly be stimulated all the time. So like you're saying, if you stop and pause and allow in the like nature, very healing, very centering,
Yeah.
very grounding. So that's yeah, I mean most of my time is spent zooming with guys, one-on-one coaching. The nature stuff is like this added benefit that like aligns with what I do and who I am and also like helps support kind of like the addition to the one-on-one coaching.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I want to nerd out just a little bit for everybody because I love these kinds of conversations when we talk about like the overstimulation. Something that I learned when I kind of like deep dived or dove. Is that the word? Anyway, when I started learning about the brain was, that the brain doesn't have the ability to be able to tell what's real and what's not. So if we're watching a movie, our emotions get heightened to it. It's why some people cry. It's why some people get angry and yell at the screen because we are getting in tune with what is going on in front of us. So if you guys think about that from that perspective, that's just watching a movie every once in a while. Now imagine that you are constantly scrolling through your phone and you're watching stupid stuff on your screen or you're ticked off at someone that's on there. So you're writing your, comment that probably nobody will ever see. But anyway, and you don't realize that what you really are doing is causing your own anxiety. And I think that that's why those numbers for anxiety and depression have like really shot up because we don't realize that we are overstimulating the brain to like the brink of what it is able to handle because we think, oh, well, I know that I'm looking at the TV or I know that I'm looking at my phone. I know that's not real, but your brain doesn't have the ability to be able to do so. It's actually been proven. I saw a really cool test that was done with athletes, and it was those that were going to the Olympics. And so what they did was they hooked them up to all these things and they had them do some of the physical activities. So running on the treadmill and different stuff like that. And they took all their vitals in and their muscle movements and stuff like that. And then what they had them do was they had them come back and sit down in a chair and visualize what was going to happen. And what was really crazy was the same emotions and the same muscle movements showed up when they were sitting in a chair as it did when they were actually physically doing it. So it's that kind of thing that really made me be aware of like, okay, I probably should pay attention to what I do watch on TV. I should probably pay attention to how much I do take in because that emotion, right, tends to linger if we don't know how to let it go, which then comes out on your spouse, on your kids, at your job, and stuff like that. And then we're like, God, where did that come from? I was pretty sure I was fine. And it's because of all the things that we are overstimulating ourselves with in that moment that are, have a lasting effect that we're not realizing is going on behind the scenes. So I wanted to kind of roll this into a question I had for you too, because women intake information and handle things very different than our guys do. And as a mom of two boys and my husband, I have learned a lot on what is healthy and not healthy for you guys and the way that you need to be able to detach or decompress. So, can you share a little bit from a guy's perspective on what you are seeing with the men that you are working with? What works for them? What doesn't work for them? Where is the differentiators so that we can kind of collaboratively help each other grow and heal?
Yeah. It when you say I guess what do you mean like for men what they need? What do you yeah.
Okay, so I know that for a lot of women, right, we just like to talk things out. I
Hmm.
know that especially for my boys, that's not always the easiest thing for them. What I have learned is like texting is a little bit easier than like face-to-face
Hmm.
interaction. And
Yeah.
I think that that's just because a lot of guys are taught to suck it up. A lot of guys are taught to shut up and don't worry about it, or not to have emotions, which is not practical. Whereas women on the other side are kind of like trying to praise each other of like, let it all out and be there. And I don't feel like our men get the opportunity to do that. But my question is like, is that helpful for them? Or is there a different setting that men have the ability to open up to? How can we help our men feel like they can be open and vulnerable and be able to heal or move forward in a different direction, just like women are creating these spaces for themselves?
Yeah. I think a lot of guys walk around feeling like they need to have it all figured out. Like they need to have the right answer. They need to make sure everything's okay, coming from that provider part of men. And
Hmm.
and I think it goes both ways. I think there are men that, like you said, like to hash it out, like to talk about it right away. And I think there are women. I mean, I think women like to have it all figured out too and want to
Oh, yeah.
feel like they have control, right? And that's what it is, right? We want to feel like we have control over the situation. And when, I think about when a guy's wife isn't doing okay. Like she's just upset, she's had a rough day. And I'll think about this one client who they were welcoming in their new au pair, and the new au pair was a vegan. And this guy's wife, she was kind of like worried about it because they don't eat vegan at the house, but she was like open to it, and it's actually like something she was interested in. So she was a little like self-conscious about it. It was really important to her as the au pair was getting there. She made this like really big, elaborate vegan meal. And she also has her own business. So she was like doing her normal day to day, but spent a lot of time running to the store and all this. Then the au pair gets there. The au pair had traveled like 15 hours to get there and said, "Oh, you know what? I'm just going to grab a banana. I'm really tired from traveling and I'm going to hit the sack tonight." And his wife just like bummed, right? Totally.
Hmm.
And he said, we had just like, we had a coaching session the week before about his communication with his wife and his tendency to try to fix things, to try to explain things. I call it toxic positivity sometimes. Like, yeah, that sucks, but let's look on the bright side. And he didn't do that in the moment. right? In the moment this time, he just like listened to her, put his hand on her shoulder and was like, "Man, that has to suck. Like that's a bummer. I saw you like worked hard, you like changed your whole schedule today and that sucked." And just let her be and have that emotion of disappointment, frustrated, anger, whatever. So that's the example of like what a man is capable of. But I think a lot of the time, what we do is we see that as a problem. Like, oh, my wife's not happy. I need to like figure this out and make her happy. And
Hmm.
um, so I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but the reason that I think what men not necessarily need, but need to start understanding in themselves. And what I figured out was that if I can't allow my wife to be upset or to be sad or to just like vent, then that emotion, I'm not comfortable with that emotion in
Mm.
myself. Right. So I don't like feeling disappointment. I don't like feeling sadness. And since I don't like feeling it, I don't want to let my wife feel it. Oh, my kid's throwing a tantrum. I can't handle that emotion of anger, so I got to shut down their emotion. I got to change their emotion. And it goes back to what you were saying that, like, you know, either explicitly or implicitly, boys were taught to not cry, to not feel disappointed, to look on the bright side, to pick up your chin and keep going. So when those emotions do come up, we feel like there's something wrong. No, we got to figure this out. We got to be okay. I got to be good. Everything's got to be good around me because then the opposite is something's disappointment is wrong. Sadness is wrong. We get screwed because disappointment and sadness is a part of life. It's a part of the spectrum of emotions. So if we're
Hmm.
only trying to be happy and okay, then when there is disappointment, we create this friction with it and try to change it. And it works sometimes, but a lot of the time it doesn't work in interpersonal relationships. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that answers your question exactly,
Yeah, no,
but
that was
I
actually
think
a beautiful answer.
yeah.
Beautiful
Um,
answer.
yeah. So I think where does that lead to? That leads to like you mentioned vulnerability. Men have a hard time saying they're wrong. Men have a hard
Mm.
time saying that like I messed up or I'm not feeling safe right now. And I think it goes back to that like we have to have it figured out. And to be able to get to that vulnerability, it's got to be some willingness from a man to like want to be vulnerable. And you know, um, I think more and more men want it. I think more and more men are talking about it. It's at least in maybe I'm in my own bubble, but I do think that more men are realizing, oh, I need to be a better communicator. I need to be vulnerable even though I don't know what the fuck vulnerable means, but it sounds like it's something I need to do. And then hopefully they find someone like me posting something and they're like, oh, I'm gonna ask him, or I really encourage the guys I work with to talk to their buddies about this stuff because you know, on my podcast, I'll bring a client experience and talk about it and know that so many men are going through the same thing that like this one guy's story will hit hundreds and thousands of guys out there. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and you brought up this really beautiful point as well that I want to make sure that we kind of repeat to people, which is if you're having an issue with an emotion that somebody is presenting, there's a really good chance it's because you are uncomfortable in that emotion. And I know even as a parent, I did the same thing with my kids, right? If I couldn't handle their anger or if I couldn't handle their tantrums or, as they got a little bit older, not being able to handle some of the things, I know that I had a really hard time for a really long time talking to them about it or expressing how I felt about it. But in my brain, it was, kind of how I was raised, like, oh, quit that, you're overreacting, all the things that kind of shut the stuff down. And I think that that's what the world is starting to realize as well is we need to have emotions. Like we are not robots. Just FYI, everybody. Like
Not
we
yet.
need to
Yeah.
we need to have the emotions, and it's good and it's okay to feel those emotions. I think that we have been in a society where there are so many negative connotations that are associated with certain emotions, right? Like anger. Anger is a huge one. Even both of my boys, because of the things that they went through in my abusive relationship, they had a lot of anger that came up when they were going through puberty and stuff that it was like all these emotions coming up that they didn't know how to deal with. And so it came out as anger, which I see tends to happen a little bit more on my male side. And it was really hard for me to deal with that because in my situation, that's all I saw was anger. And so I didn't know how to be comfortable in that emotion to help them understand how to come back down. So it took me having to work on myself and learn to be okay with those emotions, which I still have to repeat to myself now. Like when I have bouts of sadness, right? And I get upset, I'm like, oh, why am I so upset? And then I'm like, it's okay. Like it's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry in the moment. But we have been taught, or I feel like a lot of us have been taught that like those specific emotions are no good. Like we
Yeah.
shouldn't have those. We should just be happy. We should be joyful. We should be positive all the time. And I do believe that we need the dark with the light. Like it causes this beautiful balance and it gives us a full human experience versus us trying to stay on this one thing. And then, like you said, when you don't, you're like, great, what's wrong with me? What
Hmm.
did I do wrong? So I love that you brought that up, and I want to make sure that people are hearing that as well, that like it's okay to have the emotions that maybe you grew up thinking as that was bad, or every time that it happened, you got in trouble, because it is a part of our human experience. So, I know that you talk with guys a lot about this and being vulnerable. How do you even start having this conversation? If you're in a space where you're like, oh God, I love my friend group or I love my people that I'm around, but like, I don't even know if they'll
I,
listen to
I
me.
can't I
If,
can't talk to them about this stuff. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, anger is a great place to start, I think, because that's sometimes the red flag for guys. It's when they start ruining their relationships with their kids or their parent or their spouse. And for anger, I don't know where I got this from, but anger isn't a problem, right? Anger isn't a problem. It's a normal emotion. It's supposed to be there, but it is our responsibility.
Mm,
So, like you're saying, anger is a human emotion. It's fiery, it's red, it wants to like come out and punch somebody or scream. Totally okay.
yeah.
And it's our responsibility to direct that anger in a healthy, responsible way, a way that's not going to damage relationships, hurt anyone physically, emotionally. So, a lot of the time I'll start there, like on my website. I mentioned my podcast already, but on the website, I have a Stop Losing Your Temper roadmap. And it's a roadmap to
Ooh,
10 of the episodes on the podcast that kind of you listen to it in order and it kind of walks you through how to look at anger differently through a different perspective, start to understand why we get angry, where it comes from. And I think that's a good place for guys to start for sure is anger is where I see a lot of the guys starting the conversation like, hey, I go from 0 to 100. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I'm sick of the pattern. Like, talk to me.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. What's really funny is I was always the angry one as well. So when I saw that in my boys, I was like, ooh, ooh, I've got some work to do. And so it's really interesting. I think that we tend to get in this space of like men have to handle things this way and women have to handle things this way. but we're forgetting that like there's a lot of overlap, and depending on like how you were raised, or how your family treated you, or any of the factors in between, there's a lot of things that we're actually very similar on, but we tend to forget that. And I don't know if that's just because it's not something that's taught. But I kind of wanted to go back to a few minutes ago when you were talking about vulnerability. This was something I had a really hard time with for a really long time. And, I had been hurt by several people, and my trust was way down when it came to things like that. And what happened was not only did it hurt my relationships, but more importantly, it hurt my relationship with my kids. Because then I felt like I needed to be the perfect parent, the perfect example, so that they could look up to me and be super proud. But what I didn't realize was by doing that, I was actually creating a space where when they do screw up, when they do have moments of anger or emotions and failure, they were going to look at me and be like, well, that's never happened to her. So what's wrong with me? And so I think that it's really important. I love your intake on this, that we are showing that to the people that we surround ourselves with, to our kids, to our spouse, because other people pick up on that. And I think that it gives them permission to then be able to open up about it as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, being able to model. Well, let me ask you, like, what does vulnerability mean to you?
Ooh, good question. Vulnerability for me, and I think especially over the last few years, is the ability to open up and speak on something that makes me uncomfortable, whatever that might be in that moment. Being able to be honest about it and not get stuck in what is someone going to think or judge me for, but
Mm,
just being able to speak on it, right? So telling my kids that I failed, admitting to being wrong, that for me is a space of vulnerability because
yep.
it's showing your imperfections.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you nailed it. And I hope I didn't like put you on the spot. And even
No,
if I did put you on the spot, you had like an awesome answer. Because that is it. It's we think we're like wrong. We don't want to be
hmm
wrong. We're worried about what the other person's gonna think of us if I say what I'm about to say. And yeah, I do think being able to model vulnerability is really important. And that is my role as a coach sometimes. Like if I a lot of the times when I'm talking to a guy for the first time and he's going through the struggles he's having in his marriage or with his kids, it's the first time he's really talking about it to anybody.
Mm,
And I being able to like not necessarily share my own story, but even just being like, yeah, man, when you shared that um you yelled at your kids and immediately like knew that you had screwed up, like I just felt like a pit in my stomach. It felt like fuck, like I've been there, man. That sucks. Like like reflecting in that way, being able to like show that because I believe our emotions are a real thing. They're not this like fluffy word like sad, mad, happy, joy, shame, disappointment. They're actually energy in motion, emotions, energy in
hmm
motion. So the lump in your throat, the punch to the gut, the broken heart, like those are all the weight of the world on your shoulders. Those are emotions, and modeling those, being vulnerable and like opening up and describing those, I think it makes it a little less soft in a way. It's not as touchy feely. It's more real and something we can like grasp and almost tangible. And
yeah.
for our kids, like you were saying, I think it's really important to be able to model that to create a safe space with like, oh, like right now, like I just feel like punching a hole in the wall. And you saying it like, allow, and like, you're not blaming your anger on your kids, but you're just letting them know like how you feel. And you know what?
Hmm.
I'm really freaking angry right now because I had a hard day at work and I messed up on this one thing and I wish I would have done it differently. And it's all just kind of like building up inside of me and it's tough right now. Um, yeah, I think that's really healthy. And where a lot of the generation before us, our parents probably, like, not that they knew any better, got it wrong, right? They like we were saying before, whether you were told not to cry and told to like suck it up, or you just knew that if you were sad, mom wasn't going to be happy.
Yeah.
If you were sad, mom was going to try to cheer you up right away. Okay, so the best thing I can do to keep mom happy is not be sad. That was definitely my story. I have some past trauma growing up with me feeling like I had to manage my mom's emotions. If Tommy was okay and Tommy was smiley and happy, then mom could be happy. And that's a lot of responsibility on a kid to keep it all together
Hmm.
like that. So, yeah, and then it becomes a generational thing. Well, if our parents weren't comfortable with messy emotions and then we're not comfortable with messy emotions, we pass that down to our kids. They don't think that they can have it. So, yeah, being able to break that generational pattern and a, a dad crying in front of his kids, like there's so many guys like, I've never seen my dad cry. And, or I remember the one time I saw my dad cry and it was when
Yep.
his dad died or something like that. So, yeah, your kids being able to see their father be sad, be disappointed, even like pure joy is also like a nice thing to model and demonstrate because a lot of dads are like monotone and like not really like a little happy, little sad, like they never really show big emotions at all. So
Hmm.
being able to create a world where people talk about their emotions and people like, yeah, it you said it's the human experience, and it is that like we get to do the whole spectrum of emotions.
Yeah. And I think it creates a space of validation for those that aren't really sure if they can come forward with it, right? Because we are looking for that as a society. We're looking for that connection. We're looking for that support. We're looking to know that we're not crazy. We're not the only one. Tell me that somebody else has experienced this. And I think that that's the beauty in sharing our emotions and kind of sitting with someone in that emotion as they're going through it because we get to remind them that like this is okay. And it's really amazing when you have the ability to do that, how much it kind of like it just takes so much weight off of you. We live in a society where it feels like you are being judged from every single angle, right? And I think that there are a couple of generations that really were taught that. Be a certain way, have a certain posture, make sure you say the right things. Like we were taught that and we've kind of passed that down. But what I have realized too is like a lot of that judgment is all in your head. And it's because you are judging yourself on that, but you're pushing it out and projecting as if someone is judging you in that direction. And we have to be aware of that. And I think that that's why I had a really hard time with being open with my kids because I didn't want my kids to think I was a bad mom, to think that I was a failure. And it took me a really long time to realize, like, oh my gosh, no, I'm teaching my kids that they need to be perfect. And that is the wrong way to be able to teach them. And so that's what I've done over the last 6 years is like really open up to my boys. They're 21 and 17. This is like prime time for them to know and learn how to be on their own and start figuring things out. Well, if I can't be open with them, I'm already teaching them then that they can't be open. And so that's really something that I wanted to make sure that I shifted and like you were saying breaking that generational upbringing so that they can be more open so that they can have a better life so that they can learn that emotions are okay, and be open about it versus what we see with a lot of people whereas they just hold everything in, they don't talk about it, and then we wonder why people are having heart attacks at younger ages, why depression and anxiety is skyrocketing. Like it's because we think that we have to hide it when every single one of us is an imperfect human being. And I think that's the cool part of the experience, like we were talking about. So Tommy, I think this is a beautiful conversation, and I thank you for bringing up a lot of these pieces and components for people to understand that, you know, we can do all this, we can hold all this space, but we have to be able to make the space and want that change. Where can everybody find you and connect with you?
Yeah, my podcast is a great place to start. It's the Durable Dad Podcast. You can go there and then you'll be able to find my website. My coaching business is Tommy G Coaching. Google it. You'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn the most. So those are all the spots that I'm at. And I think one thing I'll say when you said like validation, that like their experience is okay and real when humans are struggling with something. Like Instagram, our neighbors, like who you see in the front yard is a lot different than the person you see inside. And like what you see on social media is a lot different than what's on the other side of that screen. And it's easy to say and know, but until you start having a conversation with somebody else about it, so men getting a coach, getting a therapist, going to finding a men's group, like until you like can connect with those kinds of people, it is hard to find validation, but it lightens the load so much when you know that like you're not the only one.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, thank you for that. Because yeah, that's a beautiful thing to be aware of. It's so easy for everyone to make everything look so perfect. And like there's no problems in the world. And there isn't anyone on this planet that I have met so far that has that ability. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Is there anything else, Tommy, that you would like to leave the audience with?
No, not really. I'll leave it at that, that you're not alone. And thank you so much for having me, Kat. It was
Of
awesome.
course,
Yeah.
anytime. And of course, we'll have all the information in the show notes. We'll make it super easy for you guys to connect with Tommy, get on his website, pick out that podcast roadmap for anybody that's looking for that. And I think the biggest thing is, especially as we're coming into Q4, right? Where have you been? What have you been doing this year? And what are the things that like you want to shift moving into the next year, right? And I really hope that you choose something that is of personal development, not necessarily, physicalities and stuff like that. Those goals are great. I'm nothing against it. And we need to also make sure that we are making goals for ourselves. How do we want to improve as a human being? How do we want to improve for the people around or for our children or for our spouses? I personally believe that part of the human experience is creating a space of connection and support for other people that maybe didn't have that or don't currently have that. I want to leave the world in a better place than how I saw it years ago. And so I think this is a beautiful testament and a wonderful conversation to just remind everybody that be aware of your goals and make sure that you are creating things for your own personal development as we move into the new year. So, to everybody, thank you so much for listening. Tommy, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. And until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable